Have you tried everything to lose weight, and yet your body still doesn't seem to respond? Have you ever felt like you were fighting something invisible, as if the scale itself was tied to a force that had nothing to do with food? She felt that way too. She tried every diet. She counted calories, cut out what she loved, blamed herself for every piece of cake. She went hungry. She looked in the mirror so many times, looking for change, and all she saw was frustration. Until the day she gave up. And that was exactly when something inexplicable started to happen. This channel is not just about stories, it's about hidden codes. Codes that are behind the reality you live in. And perhaps without realizing it, you have been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you are about to hear seems impossible. But when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. Have you ever been there? When you try your hardest and still feel like something is holding you back. Maybe the problem was never what you eat, but what you vibrate at. Because reality, including your body, responds to your frequency, not to your effort. And today's story is living proof of that. This woman didn't do magic. She didn't find a new miracle method. She simply stopped rejecting herself. She stopped trying to fix her body and started aligning with a new version of herself. Lighter, not only physically but in her soul. And when she changed inside, her body responded. Because that's how it works when you understand the law of vibration. She gives mentalism, and the most powerful principle of all, the mirror of reality. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now might surprise. Maybe you're carrying an invisible weight, one that isn't measured in pounds but in guilt, self-criticism, rejection. What if that's what's shaping your body, and not the food you put on your plate? In this video, we'll dive into the real story of someone who experienced this energetic shift. We'll understand what it really means to lose weight when the soul aligns, when the mind calms down, when the vibrational field changes. Because yes, the body is just the reflection of what happens in the invisible, and maybe, just maybe, you are closer to this transformation than you think. Because what happened to her may be about to happen to you too. Today you will learn about the silent strength of law of vibration, which reveals how your body reacts not to what you eat, but to what you feel. You will understand the hidden power of She Gives mentalism, which shows how your deepest thoughts and beliefs silently sculpt your physical reality. And you will come across the correspondence law, which makes it clear. What appears in the mirror is just the reflection of what vibrates inside. These aren't theoretical laws. They're invisible mechanisms that shape everything you experience, including your relationship with your body. Get ready to see weight loss from a completely different perspective, a perspective that you've probably always felt, but never been able to explain. And perhaps listening to this story, you have already felt something stirring inside you. A memory, an old pain, a silent recognition. Maybe you have also experienced this cycle of fighting against your body, of feeling guilty at every meal, of trying to change on the outside without understanding what was stuck inside. If this subject resonates with you, leave here in the comments, what touched you the most so far? What have you tried? What do you feel you still carry? Your experience can help other people recognize themselves too. Here, each comment is a thread that weaves together a community of awakened people, and perhaps more like you than you imagine. If what you are hearing resonates with any part of you, like this video. This shows YouTube that this type of content has value and helps this message reach those who need it most. And if you feel that this type of conversation feeds you inside, that these stories make you think differently about life, subscribe here to the channel. Your presence here is not just a number, it is a sign to the universe that you want to continue accessing these hidden keys, these forgotten laws that explain so much of what we feel, but never knew how to name. Your participation is what keeps this space alive, what allows this channel to continue growing, bringing more stories, more codes, more hidden truths to the surface. Because the more people wake up, the more the world begins to change. And now, take a deep breath, because what comes next will show you that the body was never the enemy. It was just trying to show you something you hadn't realized yet. This is Lara's story. And maybe, in one way or another, it's yours too. For years, she had been living a silent battle with her own body. Each morning began with promises. Today, I'm going to make it. Today, I'm going to eat right. Today, I'm going to do everything right. And each night ended with the weight of failure, of guilt, of the feeling that she had failed again. The diets came as pacts, firm, hard, radical. And for a while, she was even able to follow them. But it was as if something inside her resisted. A discomfort, a tiredness, a hunger that wasn't just for food, but for acceptance, for relief, for peace. She tried to compensate at the gym. She tried to suppress what she felt inside with sweat. But it seemed that her body didn't want to cooperate. And that was the mystery that no one could explain. The more she punished herself, the more her body closed up. The scale seemed to laugh at her. The mirror mocked her. Until the day when, in the middle of a silent crisis, alone in her room, she said the phrase that would change everything. I give up. But this time, I will love myself just the way I am. And it wasn't a thrown phrase, it was an internal rupture, an abandonment of the war, a surrender that for the first time didn't come from weakness, but from truth. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because Lara's moment of surrender was not just emotional, it was vibrational. And when the frequency changes, everything changes. The hidden truth behind Lara's journey is that her body was never the problem. Her body was just the messenger, just the reflection of inner layers that she had carried since adolescence, inherited beliefs, words said by others, which she accepted as truths, self-criticism embedded in her soul, an invisible programming that said day after day, you are not enough. And here begins the turning point. Because what seemed like just giving up was in fact the beginning of a transformation much deeper than any diet could achieve. When Lara let go of control and stopped trying to fix her body, she gave her energy permission to reorganize itself. She changed her mindset. She changed the lens through which she looked at herself. And at that moment, her body began to respond. Without plans, without punishments, without extreme effort, just by changing her internal state. It's as if the body had been waiting for this signal, because the body doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to vibration. And Lara, without really knowing what she was doing, activated a code, a signal to the universe that she was ready to stop hating herself and start listening to herself. And this code, this frequency of acceptance, has a direct impact on the way cells behave, on metabolism, on the way the nervous system interprets safety or threat. It's not magic, it's energy science. It's emotional reality shaping the physical. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes story that no one tells you about when they talk about weight loss. It's not in gym commercials, it doesn't appear on the labels of fitness products, but it's behind thousands of real cases. People who only started losing weight when they stopped fighting, when they started to love themselves with courage, when they understood that weight is not the enemy, it's the messenger of something that the mind still needs to integrate. Comment here. I'm on this journey too. If any part of this story touched you inside, and now there's something even more revealing that I want to show you about this invisible change that her body made. I want to go even deeper into this subject, because perhaps the most invisible part of Lara's story is precisely the one that most resembles yours. It's not about the extra pounds. It's not about the clothes that don't fit. It's about that internal feeling of being disconnected from yourself, of living in a body that doesn't seem to recognize you, that seems to carry a story that you didn't choose. How many times have you looked in the mirror and felt like you were in front of someone who doesn't represent who you really are? Someone who carries not only fat, but memories, wounds, labels, and expectations that aren't yours. There is a silent pain in this, a pain that doesn't show up on tests, that has no name in diets or protocols, but it shapes everything. The choices you make, the clothes you avoid, the places where you don't feel comfortable, the looks you try to avoid, the thoughts that invade you silently. And that's where the root of many blockages lies, because when the external image conflicts with the internal identity, the vibration is broken. You start to live in disagreement with yourself, trying to correct the mirror without realizing that it's within that the change needs to begin. Lara was experiencing exactly this. She wasn't just frustrated about not losing weight. She was tired of feeling strange in her own body, as if it were a garment that was too heavy, a prison built by years of rejection, comparison, and pressure. And her transformation began not when she decided to do things differently, but when she decided to see yourself differently. When she looked in the mirror and for the first time chose to stop fighting the reflection and start talking to what was behind it. This changes everything. Because when you understand that the reality you see is just the surface of a deeper frequency, you stop acting in despair and start acting in awareness. The body you inhabit today is the result of thousands of accumulated vibrational micro-decisions. Every self-critical thought, every feeling of inadequacy, every harsh word you have repeated in silence has been drawing day after day the image that presents itself before you today. But what if this body isn't wrong? What if it's just trying to communicate something? An accumulation of memories, a cry for care, an attempt at protection. The weight may just be the symptom. The origin is in the energy field, in the place where unexpressed emotions become density, where what was swallowed and undigested becomes emotional excess weight. This is one of the most ignored hidden truths when it comes to weight loss. No one teaches this in gyms, no one writes it on labels. But those who have been on this journey know the body listens to everything and responds perfectly. This is why true transformation is not about control, it is about reconnection. It is not about defeating the body, it is about integrating it. It is about healing the frequency that created what you see. It is about allowing yourself to be seen from the inside before expecting changes from the outside. When this bridge is created, when the mindset changes, the impact is inevitable. The body begins to let go of what it no longer needs to carry. And then, yes, the mirror begins to tell a new story. Comment here. That makes sense to me, and if you've ever felt like your body was carrying much more than just physical weight. And there's something very specific that started happening to Lara right after this shift in perception, because that was the moment when the invisible gears of reality began to turn differently for Lara. What seemed like just a change in thinking was, in fact, the beginning of a vibrational reprogramming. From that moment on, she began to resonate with something that was beyond logic, beyond discipline, beyond habits, and it has a name: correspondence law. This law is not a pretty metaphor, it is a subtle mechanic that governs absolutely everything. That exists. As it is inside, so it is outside. As it is above, so it is below. What you see is merely the reflection of what you vibrate. The physical body is a direct response to the vibrational body, and the universe, with its silent precision, merely returns the signal you emit. Lara carried shame, and this shame created resistance. She carried self-criticism, and this drained lightness. She carried rejection, and the body reacted by trying to protect, hold on, retain. It was not what she ate, but what she believed while she ate. It was not the calories, it was the guilt. It was not the portion, it was the emotional frequency that surrounded each choice. This is where the she gives mentalism, which is perhaps one of the most powerful and least understood. This law states that everything begins in the mind, that reality is mental. The entire universe is an extension of consciousness, and that includes your body. When Lara ate out of fear, her body interpreted it as a threat. When she looked at herself in the mirror with anger, her system understood that it needed to defend itself. The vibration of fear generates retention. The vibration of rejection generates contraction. The vibration of guilt generates blockage. And this is the kind of impact that does not appear on food labels, but appears with force behind the scenes of metabolism, in hormones, in impulses, in the way the body deals with every little piece of information. And maybe that's why so many people, even doing everything right, fail to see results. Because there's no point in changing your menu if your mindset continues to carry the same emotions. There's no point in controlling your plate if you still look at yourself with the same judgmental eyes. What changes the shape of your body is not the diet formula, it's the frequency of your soul. When Lara changed the way she felt about herself, her body had no choice but to follow this new command. It's a revelation that changes everything, because until then, she thought she was the victim of a difficult metabolism, of ungrateful genetics, of some bad luck. But little by little, she began to realize that what she was really facing was a mirror, and that this mirror didn't lie. It only reflected. The body wasn't trying to sabotage, it was trying to communicate. And now that she could hear with different ears, everything began to reorganize itself. She understood that transformation doesn't come when we force it, but when we let go, when we stop trying to fit in and start to occupy who we really are, when the body stops being a prison and becomes an extension of the awakened consciousness. Comment here, that makes sense to me. If you also started to see your body with different eyes after this explanation, and there is a specific vibrational detail that Lara began to notice in the following days, something that completely changed the way she related to her own image. What began to happen to Lara in the following days seemed at first glance almost supernatural. She hadn't radically changed what she ate. She hadn't started a new workout routine. She hadn't adopted any fancy techniques. But her body began to change, little by little, discreetly, as if something had been unlocked inside. Her clothes began to fit differently. Her face seemed lighter, her disposition more stable. And the most curious thing, she was no longer obsessed with losing weight. There was no pressure, just presence. She was simply there, living, feeling, breathing in a new way. It was at this point that she understood what had actually happened. When she stopped rejecting the body stopped resisting. And this isn't just nice to say, it's real. Because every body, no matter how stuck it may seem, is always trying to obey the vibrational field that surrounds it. The problem is that most people vibrate guilt and frustration, hoping to reap lightness and change. But reality doesn't listen to words. It responds to vibration. Lara began to align with a version of herself that felt beautiful, even before she was ready. She began to move more gently, dress more carefully, and eat with more presence. She didn't change the food, she changed the energetic environment surrounding each meal. And with that, her nervous system stopped interpreting everything as a threat. Her body stopped accumulating in defense and started releasing in response to a new state of inner security. This is what almost no one tells you. Vibration shapes the flesh. This was the real turning point. The so-called spiritual plot twist. That doesn't appear in gym mirrors, but that transforms the body from the root. Lara understood that being overweight wasn't a punishment, but an alarm. A sign that something in her was trying to be seen, heard, integrated. And instead of continuing to fight with her body, she chose to embrace it. To accept it not as someone who gives up, but as someone who finally understands. And that's when everything that was previously a holdback became liberation. What seemed like a miracle was just a spiritual physics acting in silence. The cells listened to the new command. Her energy began to vibrate at a different frequency. And the body, faithful as ever, simply followed. There is no magic in this. There is vibrational coherence. There is a connection with what was previously rejected. There is an intimate, invisible, but very powerful decision to stop living as an enemy of oneself. The reflection began to change, yes, but not because she wanted to convince the mirror, but because she finally recognized herself for real. The change was inevitable, because when the field changes, everything around it has to follow suit. The body is the last to change, but it is the first to show that something inside has finally been freed. And Lara noticed this in detail, in the calmer look, in the more fluid breathing, in the lightness that did not come from the number on the scale, but from the end of the internal war that she no longer knew she was fighting. And the most incredible thing is that this process was not exclusive to her. This journey of transformation is possible for anyone who is willing to rediscover themselves on the inside, before demanding results on the outside. Because when you change your vibration, your body follows suit. And Lara is living proof that sometimes the greatest weight loss is not the weight loss in your body, it's the weight loss in your pain. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you connected with this story. Maybe you recognize parts of yourself in Lara's journey, or even realize that some of the answers you were looking for were closer than you thought. If so, leave a comment below. This message was for me. Because when you write, you anchor this transformation within yourself, and you inspire others to follow suit. If this content has brought you clarity, relief, or even that feeling of now everything makes sense, then it also makes sense for you to be here with us. Subscribe to the channel to continue accessing these truths that do not appear on the surface, but that explain so much of what we feel, live, and carry. Here, each video is a key, each story is a possibility for healing. And if this video made sense to you, leave a like. This shows that this type of conversation needs to continue, and yes, you are part of it. There's a video here that complements everything we talked about today. Click and continue with me there. The next story could be the one that changes yours.